Hello, hola, buenos días. Welcome to lesson number 10. So this is the last lesson of the driving course, and this is the most intense lesson of all. So this is a YouTube video that you can see here on the screen. You've got the link to. You can click straight on it and it will take you to a YouTube channel which specializes in Spanish practical driving exams. And the idea is for you to watch this video and really pick out what Spanish you can understand from it and see exactly what a Spanish driving exam looks like. So it's like a dummy run exam. So just to remind you that in the official exam, the examiner sits in the back of the car, as I've mentioned in some of the previous videos. And in this dummy run, the person is sat next to the student that's learning to drive. So just to bear that in mind. So before I look at the video with you, I'm just going to go through some of the things I've picked out from the video that I think are the most important bits that you should know in Spanish, because I don't expect anybody to understand all of the video. It's a very intense one, but there are certain things that are worth being picked out. So I've put a few little simple things to start with that we've seen in previous lessons. Buenos días. ¿Qué tal? How's things? Vamos a empezar el examen. So we are going to start the exam. Vamos a empezar el examen. So when it's fast, you might not hear the a separate. It kind of all starts to roll together. Vamos a empezar el examen. That's probably the speed that you'd be hearing it at. Vamos a empezar el examen. Muy bien. Tenemos comprobación previa. So comprobación previa is a roundabout way of saying checking the car before the exam starts. So the examiner might say to you, vamos a hacer. We are going to do. Vamos a hacer una comprobación previa. So as long as you can pick out the two words, comprobación previa, then you would know exactly what's going on there. And you're checking the car before you start the exam. So you'd be expected to check that the mirrors are positioned correctly, that your seatbelt's working, all those type of things that you've been learning in your practical lessons, el cinturón, los espejos, etc. Comprobación previa. The next one, el próximo, would be called conducción autónoma. So as you can probably guess, autónoma is something that you do on your own. Conducción, driving, conducción autónoma. So this is what I've translated as freestyle driving. So what this refers to is a part of the exam where you could be given the option to do conducción autónoma, where you would basically drive where you want. They could say to you, hola, buenos días, ¿qué tal? Vamos a empezar el examen. Vamos a hacer conducción autónoma. That means that you're going to drive around wherever you see fit. So they might let you drive around for a few minutes on your own just to see your confidence behind the wheel. The next part that I picked out from the video was conducción dirigida, directed or guided driving. Conducción dirigida. So we have comprobación previa, conducción autónoma, and conducción dirigida. Conducción dirigida would be when you're told where to go, which we've seen in some of the previous lessons where we've told, vamos a ir al hospital. Lesson number 9, for example, would have been conducción dirigida, where we say, vamos al hospital, te doy indicaciones. Okay, and I believe also that lesson number 8 was the same. Lesson number 8, here it is, just scrolling up a little bit. Estamos en la Avenida de la Libertad. So they're already telling you where we are and they're telling you where to go, where they're saying continuamos todo recto, torcemos en la tercera calle. All of this would be dirigida, it's directed, it's guided. The same here. Quiero que me lleves a la farmacia. Quiero que me lleves a la farmacia. I want you to take me to the chemist. So again, this would be guided driving, which is the most typical in a Spanish driving exam. But just in case you're given the option to do a little bit of conducción autónoma, un poco de conducción autónoma, you would know what it is. ¿Entiendes perfectamente? Conducción autónoma, conducción dirigida y comprobación previa. Remember that this is a complete must. Even if you're not asked to do this in the exam, it's something you do need to do. Your driving school teacher will tell you this, that the examiner will always check if you've checked your seatbelt and your mirrors before you start the exam to get your pass. Okay, now this is quite a long one. And it is, si no te digo nada, siempre de frente. So it basically means if I don't tell you otherwise, go straight on. So sometimes you'll wonder why am I not getting any directions? Where am I supposed to go in the exam? If you're not told, if you're not given any other indications, just keep going straight over the roundabouts and straight on. And let's break the Spanish down a little bit in this sentence. So if not, si no, te digo would be I tell you. Nothing. If I don't tell you anything, in Spanish, we've got the no and nada. They use double, two no's, two negatives. Siempre de frente. Always de frente, straight on. De frente, we also had in one of our previous lessons where we had the prepositions. You can see here that we've got a list of prepositions that we had in lesson 5. So we had entre, detrás, dentro, encima, debajo. Aquí. I'm going to highlight this because this is quite an important one. De frente. Let me give that a bright color so it stands out. De frente, straight ahead. So by now, if you've watched your recorded lessons a few times, by the time you reach where we are today on lesson 10, it should stand out to you. If not, you can always scroll up and have a peek. Okay, so si no te digo nada, siempre de frente. If our Spanish is quite limited on the day of the exam, what do we need to listen out for? Rather than worrying about the whole sentence, let's just try to listen out for the last 3 words. So we would listen out for siempre de frente. Always straight on. Siempre de frente. I'm going to leave that underlined so you can pick out the most important words of that sentence. Then we've got, have you got any questions or any doubts? In Spanish, they would just simply say, any doubts? ¿Alguna duda? ¿Alguna duda? Other things that popped out to me in the video were luces de emergencia, which it's also in one of the lessons above where we've got the parts of the car. I think it was lesson 2 or 3, luces de emergencia, emergency lights. Then I picked out some expressions just in case your examiner uses some expressions, just so you know what's going on. I've got venga or venga tranquilo. Tranquilo is like, you know, relax, keep calm. So he's basically saying, or she's saying, you know, calm down, everything's okay. Venga tranquilo if you make a little mistake. Venga tranquilo, no pasa nada. Mucho ojo. This is one that I heard in the video. Ojo is eye. And mucho is a lot of eye. So it's a Spanish way of saying to watch out. I think he actually used in the video ojito, which is like, it just means in Spanish, little eye, just an expression. Mucho ojo or mucho ojito. Mucho ojo is, you know, keep your eyes peeled, look out. There might be a pedestrian crossing the road. Hay un peatón, mucho ojo. Or mucho ojo con este coche. Keep your eye on that car in front of you. Mucho ojo en ese coche enfrente. Hay mucho tráfico. So some of these could be mixed together where you hear, it's okay, calm down. Venga, tranquilo, hay mucho tráfico. So they're telling you that they understand that you might be a bit nervous because there's a lot of traffic. Ceda el paso, which we have in previous lessons too, give way. Ceda el paso. Buena, this should be reacción. Buena reacción, good reaction. Buena reacción, so if somebody pops out onto the road and you stop quickly, they would say, oh, buena reacción. Cuidado con los peatones. Cuidado con los peatones. Be careful with the pedestrians. Cuidado con los peatones. So remember, we've got the k sound, the qu sound, cuidado is like a Q. So the CU is like a Q in Spanish, cuidado con los peatones. Then we've got 3 types of warnings or faults that you could have in your driving lesson. So the first one is called falta leve. Leve is something weak, something small. So it's basically like a little warning. So if you hear in the exam, falta leve, that means that you've had something on the notes they take just to say that you've made a small mistake. It doesn't mean that you are failing the exam. It just means there's a little mistake. Falta leve. If you had many, many faltas leves, then obviously you wouldn't pass. But if you had 1 or 2, they would just explain to you where you went wrong at the end, or they might even leave it to your driving school teacher to explain that to you. Deficiente is a strong warning, which you could get 1 of these, and if you get 2, the exam would be over. Deficiente. And then eliminatoria. Eliminatoria, as you can probably hear, eliminate, eliminatoria. This means that if this occurs in the exam, then the exam would finish straight away. You would be asked to stop and park up at the nearest point, and the next student would start their exam, and that would be a fail. Eliminatoria. You're eliminated from the exam. If you tried to, I don't know, do a turn in a city and you did it from the wrong lane, el carril equivocado, the wrong lane. If you turn from the wrong lane, for example, that would be eliminatoria. I'm going to put an example. Girar desde el carril. Girar desde el carril equivocado. So that would be to turn from the wrong lane. If you do a turn from the wrong lane, then that would be the end of your exam. That's obviously something that you'll be aware of beforehand, and you'll practice a lot depending on what city you're doing your exam in. Girar desde el carril equivocado es eliminatoria. Advice, if you're given some advice, it's consejo. And then this next word we've used in previous lessons, the verb in Spanish, dejar, which is the same as parar, which is to stop. So if you're asked to stop accelerating, they would say, dejar de acelerar. Dejar de acelerar. Okay, the 2 last ones, un poco de freno aquí. Freno, as you know, is brake. So un poco de freno, a little bit of brake, meaning if you're asked, por favor, un poco de freno aquí. Brake a little here. Reducción a primera. This is something that I heard quite a few times in the video, which is to go back into first gear. If you're asked to go back into first, reduce to first in Spanish, reducción a primera. So because I wanted to explain what all that was and where it's coming from, I'm going to do now a round where I just read it out in Spanish without speaking any English. So you can concentrate on the Spanish pronunciation and how it flows. So let's just go through that list one more time. Buenos días. Buenos días. ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal? Vamos a empezar el examen. Vamos a empezar el examen. Comprobación previa. Comprobación previa. going to do the first one a little bit slower and the second one, normal speaking speed. Conducción autónoma. Conducción autónoma. Conducción dirigida. Conducción dirigida. Si no te digo nada, siempre de frente. Si no te digo nada, siempre de frente. ¿Alguna duda? ¿Alguna duda? Luces de emergencia. Luces de emergencia. Venga, tranquilo, venga, tranquilo. Mucho ojo o mucho ojito. Hay mucho tráfico. Ceda el paso. Ceda el paso. Buena reacción. Buena reacción. Cuidado con los peatones. Cuidado con los peatones. Falta leve. Falta leve. Deficiente. 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 Eliminatoria. Eliminatoria. Girar desde el carril equivocado. Girar desde el carril equivocado. Consejo, consejo. Dejar de acelerar. Dejar de acelerar. Un poco de freno aquí. Un poco de freno aquí. Reducción a primera. Reducción a primera. So I've tried to do the second one a little bit faster. Obviously, the person is going to know that Spanish isn't your first language, but we never know who we're going to find in the exam. I've got students that have said, oh, my examiner used some English with me in my exam. Others that say they weren't helpful at all and did Spanish in full speed. Others that said, you know, they slowed down a bit. So we've got the two options there. Okay, so those are the things that I picked out from the video. And before I end this recording, I'm going to open the video. Please bear with me. Okay, it's just loading. Right, I'm going to take the sound off that. Share the screen with you. So this is the link that you have in your PDF, in your document. And you can see here, let me just explain. So this is a 15-minute video. And here you've obviously got the volume. And this is an example of a young Spanish man that's going to do his first driving exam. And you can see here it's called 10 de 10 Examen Perfecto. So he has a 10 out of 10 perfect exam. So it's saying take notes so that you can also pass first time round. And then it states here that it is a practice test, a dummy run. So if you click play on this video, you can see also there's lots, the channel is called Autoescuela App. You can subscribe to the channel and watch all of their videos to get some extra practice with your Spanish in. And this is where I've picked out all the little bits. Conducción autónoma, conducción dirigida, mucho ojito, buena reacción, cuidado con los peatones. All the little things that I've just gone over are from here. So just in case you're not aware, if you click here, you've got subtitles. And if you click again, so you've got subtitles in Spanish where you should be able to see the Spanish text of what they're saying. So you can see here, alguna duda, any doubts? It just helps if, depending on your level of Spanish, sometimes it's easier if you can see the words as well when you listen. You can also change the speed of the video. So you can slow the video right down if you want it to go slower in Spanish, or you can just select normal. So they're just some little tips that might help with the video. So the idea would be for you to, I would recommend doing this recorded lesson twice, where maybe you watch it in the order it's recorded, where you listen to me first, then watch this after, and then maybe a few days come back to it and watch this first and see what you can pick out. So let me just show you. You can see here at the top of the screen what I mentioned a moment ago, falta leve, deficiente, and eliminatoria. So if you had one or two of these, you could still pass. One of these, you'd still pass. But if you had an eliminatoria, that would be the end of the exam. Aquí puedes mirar el freno, el acelerador, el embrague. So by now you should be familiar with those words in Spanish. Freno, acelerador, embrague. So you've got the clutch, the brakes, the accelerator. Aquí tienes la velocidad, ¿vale? The speed, la velocidad. And then you have this lady at the top that's giving driving school notes where she's saying, you know, what he's doing right, what he's doing wrong. Here she mentions, for example, hay mucho tráfico, and she's giving you consejos, advice. So really the idea would be for you to be able to pick out at least what's on the list that I've picked out from this. And I do believe that would be enough for you to, enough Spanish for you to pass the exam. Vale, muy bien. Muchas gracias. So thank you so much for watching. Mucha suerte con tu examen y hasta pronto. Adiós. See you soon and good luck with your exam.